Okay, so here we are, release 467 came out about a week ago now. As I think we're all knowing, we're in interesting and uncertain times. And what we found as a company is that, the more isolated that we've become, both work-wise and personally, the more we've really needed to find other ways for talking. And so, we're doing our best to support organizations around the world to engage with their employees and engage with family as well. So part of the release for 467 was actually to create some features that will support leaders in running more exchanges. So helping them dig in a little bit deeper to some of the help articles. So Steve is going to talk about that. And as well, we've made some improvements to the participant experience for this release. So, making it easier and more intuitive for participants to take part and to potentially adjust some of the thoughts that they've shared. So I think Steve is going to talk about those as well. Where I'll start today is a redesign of one of our analytic tools on our Discover dashboard. So I'm just going to share my screen. So differences, it's one of our hallmark tools. It's an analytic tool that helps you understand the dynamics of your exchange. So, reading through the top thoughts, looking at the top themes, those are both great ways to understand the conversation. Doesn't always pull out the polarity or where people might not be in agreement, as well as how you can bring them into agreement. So what I'm showing you right now is actually an exchange I ran. My name is Shona. I'm on the product team along with Shelly. And the exchange we ran was to look at one of our user features, which is called Roundtable, and how can we prioritize some improvements to that. The original interface we had for differences had a slightly different graphic, and we always found that leaders were not finding it intuitive. And so what we did was switch to a very well-known graphic. It's called a Venn diagram. And it just helps to illustrate what we're really getting at with differences. And so you can see there's still the two sides, side A and side B. And what that means with differences is side A rated a group of thoughts high, side B rated them low. So they're split. And then the middle of that Venn diagram is where they've come together. So these are the thoughts that both groups agree on. So if we're looking at the example that I'm bringing up, one of the questions that came out was around our interface. And you can see that the side A and side B groups are split. So I'm sure the leaders on the call today are somewhat familiar with our scrolling experience, and that's the one that we use when we're running a roundtable. And there was just some, questions in the exchanges. Should we only use that for this new feature? And there was some disagreement. So as a product owner, it's something I know needs more conversation. And then you can see in the middle, all of these thoughts. The common thoughts are the things that people agree on. And so as a leader, when you're moving forward to action the results, this gives you a clearer path forward than maybe choosing one of the sides. The only thing that changed for this release is some of the titling, the graphic that we're using. We also introduced, so if you're a leader who's sharing this with your team or at an event, we also introduced a bit of hover capabilities. So when you hover, you can see it highlights the star counts. And when you click on the Venn diagram, it will actually bring up the list of thoughts. So you can print that if it helps you to turn that into a report to share with your team. I think one thing I'll mention just before I pass it over to Steve is that we'll be making some more improvements coming out, I think, either in our next release or maybe a smaller mid-cycle release. And that's just to make the titling a little bit more clear. Our goal with this was to really simplify and give the user who's really comfortable with differences an easy way to look at all of the thoughts. And once we've done our early release with the team, we got some feedback that we might have made it a little too simple. So we're going to bring back a little bit more explanation, and you should see that coming out quite soon. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Steve Cooks. He is on our customer support team, and you've probably seen him starring in all of the videos on our help site.
Yeah, my ugly mug is plastered all over the place these days. Yeah, that's great. Shona, can I get you to stop sharing your screen just so I'll pull mine up to walk through some of the new features on the leader and participant side of things? Let's see here, I think this is the screen that I want to share. Yeah, so hopefully you can all see my screen right now. As Shona said, my name is Steve Cooks. I work on the customer support team. So when leaders or participants have questions, I'm usually the person that they end up interacting with. And I'm also in some of the videos on our help site if you had a chance to explore those. And funnily enough, the first feature that I'm going to be walking you through today is some expanded and improved access to those resources on our help site. So in pretty much any leader view where you're creating or managing an exchange, you might have seen this question mark in the top right-hand corner, kind of the international symbol for help. In the past, this has pointed leaders and participants alike towards our help site with an external link, or had another link which easily allowed leaders to submit email tickets for us to respond to if you're having issues with the software. But now when I click this, I actually get a window into our help site. So depending on which view I'm in ThoughtExchange, I get some suggested articles based on what is most relevant to me based on what I'm looking at here. And these change as I move through. If I'm trying to write a question, my top recommended article here is How to Design a Great Question. As I go through different, the survey questions, I might want to watch the survey questions tutorial video, all that sort of stuff. So it's a really handy new feature. It kind of puts help at your fingertips. And the thing I like most about it is it stays open in the app. You don't ever have to leave if you're creating an exchange to get these resources now. You can watch a help video, have this cheat sheet open just as you put everything together. So really couldn't be easier. And if you still have questions as you go through, maybe we don't have the article that you're looking for, even after you do a special search here, you can click the Contact Us button, submit an easy request that way. We also frequently have this set to when we've got someone manning the help desk, it's a live chat feature. So we can just instant message back and forth, get you the answers you need as quickly as possible. So it's a feature that I, working on the support team, am very excited for, and I hope you're all excited for it as leaders as well. The one thing I will mention is that this expanded resource is just for leaders at this stage. We're hoping to maybe look at adding it to the participant side of things eventually. But for now, it is for those creating and managing exchanges. So if you have any questions about that, we're happy to answer them. Do we have any questions?
Great to hear, Dave. No, he's excited to see that functionality. And actually, it's a really handy thing across the Discover dashboard. So for example, the differences that I just shared, some people don't find it an intuitive tool immediately. And so now you can just open up that article as you're looking. Thanks for sharing this, Steve. And it takes you right in there. And I agree. I love the fact it opens up the actual article right there. If you're presenting and you just need a quick little, what was this again? It's right there at your fingertips.
For sure, yeah, and that's a great point. Thanks, Sean. I did forget to mention that this is in the Discover dashboard, and the recommended articles are specific to whatever tab you're looking at here. So if I pop back to my suggested, I can get my intro to the Discover dashboard, a quick start guide to Discover, and then the tab that I'm working on. So yeah, very excited about that feature. The second feature that, if we don't have any questions about the help functionality, is actually on the participant side, and it's one that is very often requested by our participants. And let's say that I'm in an exchange here, I'm sharing a bunch of thoughts, I get into Star, I'm reading some of the thoughts that other participants have provided, and it kind of changes my way of thinking. It gets me thinking about some of the thoughts I've shared, and maybe I don't see things that way anymore. So I pop back over to share, and now I actually have the ability to delete thoughts that I have shared from the exchange just by clicking these three dots in the upper right hand corner and selecting the delete option. So this is something that we have heard requests from participants in the past. Some people just for whatever reason want to invoke that right of takesy backsies from elementary school days. But this allows them to do that for any exchange that is still open. So it gives the participant a little bit more ownership over the thoughts that they share. They can decide to pull those out even after they have been rated by other participants. We cut that functionality off once the exchange closes, just because we don't want it to affect the ultimate results or the decisions that you're making as leaders, or the evidence that you have to support those decisions. So once the exchange closes, again, this is finalized, but while it is open, participants can navigate back here and quickly and easily remove a thought that they've shared.
So just curious, Dave, the question, can a participant also re-rate thoughts? So if I'm understanding that correctly, the thought will be deleted, so it'll be removed from the exchange. And then the next time someone goes in to rate, the new thought, if they've added one, will come in. Does that make sense? It won't replace the previous thought. It'll be as if a new thought was added.
I'll just add, yeah, how I interpreted that was too, is you can always change your ratings on a thought. A participant can go back and change their ratings as long as the exchange is open too.
Yeah, that's actually another common question we get. So you can see when I'm in the star step here, I can see the number of thoughts that I've rated, as well as arrows that allow me to go forward and backwards. So I can navigate back to any thought that I've previously rated. I can switch to a 2-star, and then it'll just jump me ahead to the next thought. If I want to make this 5-star, I can easily do that as well. Okay. So the last feature that I was going to walk everyone through is just some changes to the rolling user experience. And if you bear with me for just a moment, actually, I think, yeah, I do have the rolling user experience open for this exchange. So this is our alternate interface that Shona mentioned earlier. It allows participants to come through and just click through in kind of a scrolling format, all the steps of an exchange. So you can scroll up and down to steps that you've already been to, but basically allows for all the same functionality that participants may be used to in the traditional experience. A couple changes we've made in here for 467 are just to encourage more sharing and more rating of thoughts, and just to make that a little bit easier for participants. So now if I I'll enter a test thought here for the purposes of this demo. As soon as I click the submit my thought button, I'm presented with another clean, empty thought bubble to encourage me to share another idea. Whereas in the past, I had to indicate if I was done sharing and wanted to move on to start or enter another thought. I just had to click a button before I could do that. Now it's all right here. If I want to keep sharing, it's very easy for me to do that. When I am done sharing, the other change that we've made in here is just to, yeah, unfortunately, I've been through this exchange a number of times, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to demo this. I apologize. But basically, as participants go through the starring in the rolling user experience now, we've changed the prompt for them to move to the discover step to appear not after 5 thoughts, which is what it used to be, but after they've rated 10 thoughts. They'll receive a message asking them if they want to go to the discover step to see which thoughts have risen to the top of the conversation, or do they want to continue starring thoughts. And once they've hit the 10, once they've hit 15
Yeah.
thoughts. 15 thoughts. I apologize. So
I
yeah,
know this story, so I'm very familiar with it.
it's good that we have you on the call, Shona. I'm getting my numbers all mixed up today. So after participants rate 15 thoughts, they'll receive that message asking them if they want to go to discover or continue starring thoughts. And then they'll see that same message every 10 thoughts thereafter. So it just encourages participants to star more, share more, gives you better data as the leader of an exchange when all is said and done. So some great additions there to the rolling user experience. And I'll actually pass it back to Shona because we are also working on some accessibility additions to this interface as well.
Yeah. Actually, there's also another change. If you scroll down to the very last thought that you starred, so you can see to the left there, there's a new share thoughts button. So what we've heard, it's a lot of scrolling to jump all the way back up if inspiration hits and you want to share another thought. So we just made that easier for people to share more thoughts. And we're going to be closely monitoring the impact of these changes and improving it. Something else that's going to be coming out soon, and it's hard to describe, but it's a great addition, is some accessibility features. So our tagline, or what we do, is we bring people together, and we want to make sure that it is as accessible as possible. And so we've been working with a team member actually on the product team who has some expertise in this area, and she's been supporting us in building in some elements to the interface it's going to make it a lot easier and more accessible for screen readers and for people with mobility issues. So I believe that's coming out in just a couple of days. And it's not something that is going to be noticeable. There might be a few new headers, but it's really a bit of a behind the scenes programming change and just supports the way a screen reader will interact. And I think it's going to be actually coming out in 2 phases. So we've made some initial improvements. And then there's a few other pieces that we still need to add. So those will be coming out next.
Yep. And I can see we have a question in the Q&A from Kirsten, who asks, will the leader be able to see deleted thoughts? And no, the leader won't be able to. So once a thought is deleted from an exchange, it is fully deleted.
All right. I think, we'll pass it on to Shelley.
Yeah, perfect. The changes actually for Rux and accessibility are coming out tonight, along with some performance improvements. We've had ridiculous usage over the past week, so we're putting in place a little more foundational work, and the Rux accessibility improvements are part of that. And I think what Shona was saying, like, this is something we're continuing to work on, having ThoughtExchange accessible to as many people, as broad and diverse a group as possible is our goal. So it's something we continue to work on and just try to get better and better at. Yeah, so that's what's coming out tonight. And then we also have a pretty amazing release plan for June. Again, doubling down on what Shona said earlier, like, we're continually trying to make things easier. We're going to be introducing some features in the next release that's really going to provide some inspiration and motivation for leaders to run exchanges. And then we have an amazing feature I'm super excited about in the dashboard that I think is going to be a real game changer in allowing leaders to really wrap up an exchange really quick and easy and provide value to leaders when they're done an exchange. And so that's coming out in June, so stay tuned and keep your ears open for that. I'd also like to just mention, if anybody has any questions or wants to dig deeper into our release notes or things that are going on, check out thoughtexchange.com. That's where you can access support. And you can also see all the virtual events we're offering. We've got a great one coming up tomorrow about how to improve your meetings, and it's going to be showcasing the presenter mode feature. So I think that'd be a really great one for leaders to tune in. And it's a quick session on how to get more out of your meetings, especially as Shona mentioned, we're in this really bizarre time right now. We're doing everything virtual, and looking for better, deeper ways to connect with people is super important. Okay. If there's any questions, we can stay on for a minute, or if that's all, we will let everybody go for lunch. And thank you so much for your time, for tuning in and hearing about what we're offering at ThoughtExchange.